This is the follow-up to my video on the interview by Tom Swarbrick of Jess Phillips, MP for Birmingham Yardley. And as I said before, she is the Parliament Under Secretary of State for Safeguarding and Violence Against Women and Girls. I love her. I think she's a brilliant, brilliant politician. She has stood up for women and girls, their rights and the abuse against them for her entire career. As I said before in my last video, every year she stands up in the House of Commons and reads out the list of all the women who were victims of femicide, generally to a virtually empty house. And it makes me sick that the men don't stick around to listen. I think that they should be forced to listen to Jess read out these names out of respect for these women. So in my previous video, I discussed the statistic that Swarbrick regurgitated about the 20 times more likely that Afghan men are to be convicted of SA, SV, DV and grape than other cultures. And again, it's a statistic that needs to be peeled back and looked into. Statistics are only as good as the information that goes into them. So why is that statistic showing as 20 times more likely to be convicted? Why aren't the rest of those who commit those crimes being convicted? And as I've said before, generally because they are white. So here's the second video, which I find interesting as well, because it really does speak to me, this, and it's something that I thought of earlier on, well, yesterday actually, so when this news was announced. So I'm going to play this, and then I'm going to play it again and respond as I go through and probably waffle on and be angry, because again, I am being the angry woman.
List of people here who have committed violence against young women and girls, including a 17-year-old raping a 13-year-old girl and being acquitted. What do you make of that Sycamore Gap sentence in the context of the sentences handed out for people who are violent towards women and girls?
Look, I don't want to say that those people who... I was actually in the northeast when the Sycamore Gap a tree was felled, and I had no idea of the strength of feeling about that, so that was a little bit of a surprise to me. However, you cannot look at the comparator. I've spent my life saying that there is a fundamental problem where policies around women's safety matter less than bins, and which is, you know, I suppose quite topical because I'm from Birmingham, and in this case it feels like trees, and I can understand why people make that comparison. I mean, boats matter more than women, cars matter more than women, and that is often how it feels. And so I spend my time writing the violence against women and girls strategy for the government, going into every government department, making sure that women's rights and the safety of women and children is everybody's priority.
I've got a list of people here who have committed violence against young women and girls, including a 17-year-old raping a 13-year-old girl and being acquitted.
Do you see? Do you see what I'm talking about? He was acquitted. Insufficient evidence. I would love to know the details of that specific case, and I would love to do a report on that. But that person was acquitted. Reason being, insufficient evidence. Not enough evidence to convict beyond a reasonable doubt. And I can only guess that this person was probably white. Oh, we didn't want to ruin his life. He's so young. Oh, you know, we don't have enough evidence. She was 13. Regardless of her age and his age, it was grape. Statutory grape. But he was acquitted. Makes me so mad, so angry. So angry, because that person is going to go on and do it again. And again. And again and again and again.
Do you what do you make of that Sycamore Gap sentence in the context of the sentences handed out for people who are violent towards women and girls?
Now, the Sycamore Gap vandals who cut down the tree on Adrian's wall, which has been, in many movies, Robin Hood, Prince of Thieves was one, and they received 4 years. They chopped down a tree, okay, but this tree was basically a national treasure. Personally, I would rather have had them had to do 4 years of community service, planting trees every single day of their life, because there are not enough trees in the country. I think that would have been appropriate, because they'll get out. They'll get out early. And, there is evidence that they did it. There's video footage. They have admitted it. They think it's funny. There's evidence that they did it. Yet, when it comes to grape, SV, SA, DV, those men who are the perpetrators receive such small sentences. They get out and they do it again. And there's always this lie that goes around, and it is a lie. It's, oh, my ex was crazy, she was crazy. And the woman thinks, oh, well, she was crazy. But then it happens to her. But years down the line. I cannot express how I feel about the fact that men are given such small sentences for that crime. Why? Because they are men and they have male privilege, and we live in a misogynist, patriarchal society that gives men the benefit of the doubt. Women are looked at as second class. Women are looked at as less than. We are minimized. We are made to feel guilty for being raped in the first place. What were you wearing? Your skirt was too short. Oh, you were inebriated. You were asking for it. Well, why were you out so late? Why were you walking home alone? Why can't we do that? Why can't we do those things? We should be able to do those things. Men can. Men can do those things. And yes, there is violence towards men, and the 99.9% of that violence is done by men, on men. So the common denominator here is men. I cannot stress this enough, and I know I'm going to get comments, well, I'm not like that, and this, that, and the next thing. Great, you might not be like that, and that's wonderful, and we need more men like that in the world, but we also need you to go out there and teach other men, to call them out. I was 14, walking into town from school in my school uniform, when this bloke leaned out of his car shouting rude things at me. I was 14. Men like young girls. It's that simple. I was having a discussion with somebody yesterday about the fact that men will say, oh, but what about teachers, female teachers who grape their school kids, the boys? This is just a theory, okay? I'm not saying that this is the case, okay? So this is just a theory. Of the men that I've met in my life, the vast majority of them fantasized over their teachers. And at that age, their hormones are raging and their teacher's there and it's a good looking teacher, and perhaps they get a glimpse of a leg or a thigh or even her panties. And perhaps they try and, make a move on the teacher. Now, let's say that teacher is stupid enough, because they are, to have intercourse with that boy. That boy will love it. To them, it's not grape. To them, it's like, wow, my fantasy has come true. And guys, you just have to look at porn to see this fantasy played out so often in those videos. But what does he do? He goes and tells his mates and boasts and says, I slept with her and this, that and the next thing. So the word gets out, and the next thing you know, that teacher struck off. Rightly so, because they should not have done that. I agree, they should not have done that. But again, I come back to pornography, that it is seen in porn videos all the time. That men, boys, obviously in the videos they're men pretending to be boys, want to have intercourse with their teachers, and of course in those videos that happens, because otherwise what would be the point of the video?
Look, I don't want to say that those people who... I was actually in the northeast when the Sycamore Gap tree was felled, and I had no idea of the strength of feeling about that, so that was a little bit of a surprise to me. However, you cannot look at the comparator. I've spent my life saying that there is a fundamental problem where policies around women's safety matter less than bins, and which is, you know, I suppose quite topical because I'm from Birmingham, and in this case it feels like trees, and I can understand why people make that comparison. I mean, boats matter more than women, cars matter more than women, and that is often how it feels. And so I spend my time writing the Violence Against Women and Girls strategy for the government, going into every government department, making sure that women's rights and the safety of women and children is everybody's priority.
You see, that's it. Politicians like Farage put out there, boats, 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 boats. Migrants, migrants, migrants. And of course, then they'll throw in the fact that the 20% of 20 times more likely to be convicted. Remember, convicted here, not, committing, but convicted. A tree is more important than a woman. 50% of the world is made up of women. We should be the most important on the agenda, and we're not. We're not. Not when you've got people in power like Donald Trump, who is a convicted rapist. We don't stand a chance. We do not stand a chance. And it is wrong. It is so, so, so wrong on so many levels. Yes, rapists need to receive longer sentences. In my opinion, they should be sentenced for life. That's my opinion, because I know that they will do it again, because they can get away with it. And they know they can. They know they can. It happens. It happens. I was a victim of rape. I'm a survivor. And even though I had witnesses, even though I had evidence, the sergeant wouldn't hand it over to the CPS because there was insufficient evidence. So that person is out there, able to commit that crime again. I hope that that person doesn't. I really hope that that person doesn't do that. But I have found in my life, working with women who have been in abusive relationships, that those men will go on to do it again and again and again to other women. Because we're property. We're not human. Men want to dominate women. And yes, I say all men, because it is always a man. And the good men out there, you can help us. You can help us end this. But you have to step up. You have to be there for us. You have to start looking at this and realizing what you're seeing. That your mate, your best mate, might well be a rapist, might well be an abuser. In my view, I always believe the victim, because I know how hard it is to be believed as a victim. Guys, thanks for watching. Give the video a like if you can, share it, subscribe to the channel. I hope to see you next time. Blessed be.